All right. Well, this is a strange phenomenon, I must say. A quiet room trying to do this, so we'll give it our best and jump into some content. And I think, obviously, the elephant in the room is that this is a topic about being face to face, and as we sit today, that is not allowed, and for any of us. So, I think what I want to do is run through these slides, as if it were relatively normal time, and talk through them, get some comments from any of you that have thoughts and comments and ideas, and then maybe shift it toward the end to the space we're in now, which is different. So, someone yesterday, one of the sponsors talked about, at this point, all of us are digital fundraisers, which I think I agree with. So how might we take these concepts and apply them in a format that is non-face-to-face for a while is an interesting question. So let's dive in, if we could. I'd like to do that. Again, as Brian from RNL is helping me monitor the chat room and questions. So please feel free to jump in with thoughts, comments, questions along the way. We can try to make it as engaging as possible in this format. So in terms of what we're talking about here, let me just make sure that I move the slide forward. Right. There we go. So the overview of this, and I've done this session now at Meeting the Minds more than 10 years and had great feedback over the years in doing this. So the average person annual giving, I know I felt this, I still feel it in some ways as an advancement leader, the tension between productivity and success with donors. So, as we think about what we're working through together, how do we manage that good tension between those two feelings? And I'm going to contend today and always that true success is found in being out of the office and getting face-to-face with donors, volunteers, and prospects. It's a funny time to be saying that, of course, as we're all on self-isolation. But I still think that is the most important true success we can find. And I do think that, looking forward, we'll talk about ways what the new normal might look like in this. But I still believe it, even in spite of what's going on today. So an outline, reasons why I still think face-to-face work should be the goal for everybody in annual giving. Strategies to get you out of the office or the rut you might be in to break that. 3 archetypical donor prospects I think you might find in your list of donors, and then some feedback and discussion along the way. Again, a unique way of doing this, so please chime in as you see fit on the chat. Well, I don't know how to do this. We'll try this if we can try. Anybody out there doing 16 or so visits a month, a full-time level of being a major gift officer? I'm just curious if I can see that. Let's see, there's my, there's the chat. Brian had 12 a month when he was an LGO. That's pretty good. Yeah, I mean the full-time major gift person, we look at 12 to 16 visits a month. As you think about this, are you doing 8 or more a month to a week? Are you doing 4 or more a month? That's 1 a week. Or you're not seeing people at all. So as we go forward, again, I can do this with hands normally, so it's much easier and I can sense the room. It's harder in this case, but you know what you do, and so keep that in your front of your mind as you go forward to figure out how we might take it one level forward. Today's whole goal is about just a little bit more, a little bit better, a little bit further along the way, if you so agree. So keep that in front of your mind. Again, I'm going to give some reasons why I think face-to-face work should be everybody's goal. We can discuss that going along the way. I think it's way more fun than stuffing letters and managing budgets and writing brochures. I've always loved the face-to-face work. I've been in this work since 1995, so it's a long time. And most of my memories are about being with people, not about some of the more tactical things I would do, which is fine also, but it's definitely fun for me. It's old school. I think, you look back at some of the methods and madness of this work from the old days, and I think, getting out in front of people and being with them face to face was the way it was done in the 100 years ago, and it's the way it's done, I think, still well today. So I think it's still really critical. Valuable. I think back at some of the old studies I saw in the early 90s and 2000s with target analysis and groups like that, looking at the value of a donor, of a loyal donor. And, you know, we still look at that in the work we do today, that the value of that donor is so much higher from someone that's been involved 5 years in a row as a donor, someone you might get to know and see. So the long-term value of annual donors that are loyal, that you know, is critical. I love, well, again, we're in a funny place now. I love great restaurants and nice alums and being with people over coffee and hearing their stories. And we'll get back to that at some point. But I just think that's, as I think about the work over a long time, I've done it. Those are the stories I remember and people I remember from being with them face to face. It's challenging. So, you know, wherever you might work and whatever you might be doing, this is a real, annual giving, face-to-face work is a real challenge. Getting people to go from no or maybe to yes, and what that might look like for you and your institution is all different. But it's a great challenge. And then, you know, once you've had some of those successes, how you leverage that for your own future and your own good. It is real-time feedback. And so I think sometimes I think all of us in sort of the direct messaging, annual giving space, we might get a little bit of an echo chamber that we, you know, create things, write things, and then look at, you know, talk to our peers about it, maybe even our bosses. And I think there's a sense that, you know, we've got the message down and makes perfect sense. I would challenge that a little bit. I think that running your messages by real people out in the world living their real lives with a tie to your institution is great real-time feedback for sure. So I think if you have a message you're trying to craft or think about for next fall, for example, you know, running it by a leadership level donor who already knows and loves your place would make great sense and get a sense of what they think. Even if they think you're doing great work and you're right on, it's still helpful to have them be part of that conversation. So think about those comments. It's really good for you. You know, I would argue that pretty strongly. Those who are advancement leaders, most have either been involved with or overseen or worked in annual giving. Not all, but most have done a lot of face-to-face work with donors. You can get to the top job in other ways, but, you know, most have done this. So again, I think, you know, if you look to advance your career and want to move forward, this is just, there's no one will ever say this is not valuable work toward that goal. I've done things over the years, had prizes, kept score, had contests. It just depends on who you are and how you run your team, but you can make it fun. I know that the folks at Claremont, McKenna, where I work now, are doing that and under Carrie Sears leadership. I know I did it at LMU and at Redlands. So it's a great way to keep things fun. If it's not your culture, don't worry about it. But there's just ways to make it fun. And again, I'll keep using that fun word. And just a comment here. So if you're in annual giving especially, and you kind of want to advance, and you don't think this is fun, you do a couple and you're like, ugh, this is not what I want to do. That's fine too. And I think there are other great roles in advancement that don't put you in that space to be with people that way, and it's totally fun. I think you should really feel in your gut of your stomach a sense of this integrates with who you are and what you're up to, not a sense of, ugh, I hate this and don't want to do it. So, you know, I know people that have been in the frontline work and then decided that wasn't what they wanted and moved to different roles, and it's totally reasonable. So that's all great. All right, so I'm going to keep going forward. I need to see if I can check with Brian on the chat. I don't want to lose my slides here. Let's see how we're doing. Well, that's not working. I can't do that. I'm going to keep going. And Brian, if there's a major question, email me. I might see it pop up in my email. I'll keep plugging on my slides. So now the first of the yeah, but slides for a bit. So yeah, but these are very common and real reasons to sort of say, you know, hold 1 second. Oh, my bar came up. This is exciting. Oh, things sounds good, right? Thanks, Brian. All right, cool. Yeah, but I'm a small shop. So many of you, some of you in the room, the virtual room, may be a one-person operation for annual giving, or you might be 20. So if you're a small organization and don't have the resources to get out, that's reasonable to think about. So fine. My description of my job says I don't do this. I am a phone-a-thon organizer or a direct mail supervisor or a digital officer. I mean, that's all reasonable. So that's just a fact. Yeah, but here's a big one. If I leave the office today, other things that I need to do don't get accomplished. That's a really reasonable question, and we're going to talk about it a little bit longer as well. And I can do a lot more by staying here than I can by seeing one person. So if you work in Southern California and under normal conditions, and you want to go for a lunch with somebody on the west side of LA, you're maybe leaving at 9:45 in the morning for a lunch at 11:45 and home at 3:30, 3:45. That's a full day for one lunch. And the question is that worth it? Now, my answer is it depends, but mostly yes, I think it is worth it. So we'll talk more about some of those ideas. So here's some thoughts towards some of the buts here. Some ways to think about success. So one is to think small. I would really encourage this to be a takeaway from today, wherever you are on the paradigm of doing outside work. And many of you are doing a lot of it, and some of you are probably doing none of it. Think small. Don't set a lofty goal for yourself that's artificial, don't try to lose 20 pounds today, lose 1 pound. I'm doing my new plan here at home with my family and trying to come back to work stronger and more physically fit. And so, I'm doing pretty well, but I can't try to lose 20 pounds in a day. I'm trying to lose, a pound or so every couple of days. So I'm focusing that on my own life. If you're seeing nobody outside when things come back to normal, try for 1 or 2 a week. If you're doing 2, shoot for 3 or 4. And if you're full-time outside external, shoot for that full number. So whatever you're doing, think about one more level forward. That's the goal here. Keep it really simple. We can really hurt ourselves in many things we do by overreaching and setting goals that are unrealistic for yourself. So think small, but then think big. So if you're seeing one person a month, great. I think the comment there is to make it count. So what does that mean? Who's the most loyal donor you got that's been giving for 36 years, and get to know them? Who might be a young alumna who is out doing great things, who's rising, that you can go see, that you maybe knew when she was a student and now you can go visit her as a young professional, go see her. Take the person that nobody's seen yet, the major gift suspect that's high potential who no one's visited, and go see them. I'll come back to this in a minute as well, but just a comment again, don't take people not on your list or on others' lists, of course. So however you're organized, I'm guessing people across your organization are assigned to relationships as primary manager. Don't call them. Everybody else is up for grabs. So make a clear point. Try to add some value. See someone who's never been seen before and move them forward. So again, don't just do it to get out's sake. Do it to maximize and do something good for them and for your organization and for yourself too. All right, so I'm going to pivot for a second and think about annual giving cycles and talk to you about that for a minute. So we all know this work is cyclical. So here's some thoughts, how I've done this for a long time. I work my schedule this same way, and if you do, great. And if you want to take some tips, great. It's up to you. So most places run July to June. Some do June to May. But most are July to June. So my life, my year runs July to June as well in my head. So I do think that December is actually a time to maximize your phone work. So don't take this I'm talking about and actually put it on the shelf for December. Don't leave the office. December 1, start bringing your lunch and put on your hard hat and your work vest and get in and bang the phones. And I think there is a space in December that is about max spread, max coverage. And so definitely come in and plug along December and talk to as many people as you can and secure year-end gifts. June, similar, or the end of your fiscal year, similar. That last month, there might be a space that you're doing more outreach, trying to cover a wider group. So if you think about this work, it's either you're looking at it horizontally or vertically. Donor visits, I think, are vertical by nature. They're deeper. You're learning about people's interests, their wine they love, what they love about your institution, other things they care about. It's deep. Horizontal work is when you're reaching out to many, many people and trying to cover at a wider level. So June makes sense too. August, play some golf, go to the beach, get yourself some nice tans. It's really difficult. People don't really want to see us in August, I have found. Maybe it's changing as the world changes, but didn't find much success in August. That left 9 months for me. So I really look at my visit focus for the other 9 months, not December, not June, not August. There's a natural, natural sense of the fall as back to school time. September, October, and November are often some of my most successful times to visit. And then, I've done some success with December phone calls of thanks or of asking for gifts, and then setting up January visits and February visits. That's been successful as well. March, April, May have been good months into June, or early June. So that's just a comment. Do with it as you see fit. But I've seen that over the years be important. So we do work in cycles in annual giving. It's important to hold that in front of you and not try to ignore that fact. All right, so I would encourage all of us to think like major gift professionals. So not everyone is being managed in a pipeline. So this is scalable. So if you're a place with 100,000 alumni, parents, friends, I'm going to guess that between 5 and 10,000 might be in a major gift pipeline. And I'm going to guarantee you they are not all covered by somebody. So I'm not telling you how to do your job. I don't know how it works at your organization, but at mine, there are, many that are covered by someone and many that are not. And so I encourage our annual giving team to look at the list of unassigned and get after it. And go to it and go for it. There should be more unassigned than assigned. And again, it depends on the organization, but go see somebody who's never been seen, non-managed, you'll bring back great reports. Give it your best shot to find new people. Think like an entrepreneur. So again, everyone's a prospect for annual gift. So I'm everywhere is different, and I'm not suggesting I don't know how you do your job. However, where I've been for a long time at University of Redlands and now at Claremont, McKenna, really trying to erase silos between things. And I want the major gift team to ask for leadership annual gifts and deferred plan gifts. I'd love the annual giving team to ask for, of course, leadership annual gifts, but also qualify and learn about major gifts and think and qualify and ask in terms about plan gifts and deferred gifts. I want people in plan giving to ask locking leadership gifts for annual purposes and for major gifts. So I'm a big believer in trying to erase those silos that we built, I would argue, artificially. So I want one person to be a real point of entry for our alums, donors, prospects, suspects. So be that person. Be an entrepreneur, help them, handle all their business with you, and take care of it all. That would be my advice. I have a chat moment. Please hold. And yep, Brian's encouraging people to ask questions. Thank you, Brian. So we're still plugging along. I'm gonna hold the group to that in a few minutes. I'll keep on plugging along with some slides here. Thanks, Brian. Again, a comment, and on the slide you can see it, but an entry-level leadership gift used to be $1,000 for annual giving. I don't know if it's more than that or your institution, it's fine. But take that amount, divide it, what it is per month or per week. And I think there's some real logic to that, to lay it out for people in terms of what a leadership annual gift could look like in your organization's framework, broken up over weeks or months. Excuse me. Time for a sip of coffee and some more yeah but. So let's come back to that in a second. So some more very natural and very, very real yeah but thoughts around this. Yeah, but I don't know where to start. There are too many people on my list. I'm covering 500 people. Where do I even start? Should I go now? Again, this is another question of a different times. Should I go regionally? Should I stay close to home? What makes sense there? These folks have never been seen before. They're not going to know what to expect from me. That's a logical question too. So here's some thoughts on those. One, organize yourself, right? So I tend to, over all the years in this work, run my list of donors. I do a lot of work by life giving. I've just decided years ago that, someone's life giving to your institution, a column almost everybody would have in a pretty easy spreadsheet, I would think. I take it and I run it in descending order. So highest to lowest. And then I take that then of people not under management. So if I'm you, and I've given this advice to people on my team that are in the space, trying to grow in the space and do more and be more face-to-face focused and outside, not under other management, lifetime giving, descending, or, last year's giving, descending, same criteria though, not under other management, people that are unassigned, or last year's giving, looking then at this year's giving, do a computation that looks at, who's got the most sort of live money left out there. So if we're sitting here at end of March, I know things are a little bit different, but let's just, think about April, May, June. I'm thinking about the people with about 100 days left in the fiscal year who gave, the biggest gifts last year and not yet this year. Again, another great list to look at. So however you see it, go for it. Also, another idea is either consecutive year giving or a number of years of giving. So I don't know how your databases work, but we've got both at Claremont, McKenna. So I think the max in our database is 37, 38 years. So when I see numbers like 37, 38 pop up, that's a very loyal person that has loved the place dearly. And I'll just tell you now and tell you again, the most frequent made plan gift comes from people who are loyal annual donors, small level, not necessarily largest gifts. So a couple archetypes to look forward and think about together. I have 3 to think about. My son is bringing me homebrewed coffee. Thank you, Logan. I appreciate that very much. What a blessing. All right, so 3 archetypes to think about, and you've all got these people in your databases. Archetype 1, Leslie Loyalty. She's 74, lives in Manhattan Beach. She and Mr. Loyalty purchased their house in 1957. It looks the same as it did then. She's made gifts to the annual fund for 34 consecutive years, but never been seen because that gift probably fell below the radar. As folks come in to do major gift work, they maybe didn't pick up on Mrs. Loyalty. So no, in your database, no visits to be seen. So here's my case. Great plan giving prospect. Even if they don't make a plan gift and do nothing else than that, I would still argue that in any of our roles, the chance to go thank someone like that face to face when we can again for that kind of giving is wonderful. So I would argue that visit is worth it for once we're past our 6 feet distancing of a handshake or a hug and a thanks to what she's done and her husband over all those years. So we've all got this person in our databases. I would really encourage you to think about it. When I look at my team, we talk about, who we're looking to go after and talk to and connect with. Over 70 years old is just always top of my list. They are the most generous, the highest in philanthropic dollars. I would really encourage that. So that's an archetype, Leslie Loyalty. Yancey Young Buck's another one. So young guy, rising. I made a joke about Starbucks, but found a niche and is marching forward beautifully. High potential. Many of us, I know we track this, of future prospects. You might have that in your own vernacular, but someone that hasn't quite made it yet, but is on the way. So he gave 2017 to the senior gift 3 years ago, nothing since. The question is, wouldn't it make sense to get to know Yancey before he made it big? It's something we all know. To get him plugged in. I would also visit with Yancey and talk about his role as leader, right? So a successful person, could he come back to campus and meet with students and talk to them about his journey? Could he, of course, make his leadership annual gift to show how important? I know a lot of us have stopped doing honor rolls. Claremont McKenna still does one. Many have stopped, but any way you have to show who else is giving, someone like this is important to sort of, it backs up your claim that it's important to give to your institution when someone like this is giving back. So critical person to think about, to try to plug in. And more often than not, the younger person, might see you, especially if you're a younger person yourself, getting started in the work. You have a lot to talk about. So, be creative on this, an email ping, a LinkedIn connection first, and then a chance to go see them face to face might make sense. And then you never know, where they work might have a couple of their alums or parents too. So that's an archetype that all of us have, someone like this. Third, Lance, Lowkey, another archetype. Again, middle-aged person, but given more than 25,000 or whatever number in your mind makes sense as a big number over life. Been a lifetime leadership giving club member for a long time. No one's ever seen him. Everyone's tried. He doesn't come to things. He breaks all the rules we think about, like to get someone involved, we visit with them and we cultivate them personally, and then we get to know them and da 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 da. None of that pertains. He just gives money, right? So the question with someone like Lance is, doing on his own, what might he do if we plug him in more? Now, again, what I'd say here is that sometimes we get in this space that, us seeing someone face to face is the only way that relationships move forward. Maybe, maybe not. I think someone like Lance, looking at what his interests are, looking at things he's given to, maybe you do become a digital officer with someone like Lance and look to send, a message once in a while of an added value, a lecture that was recorded, a student thesis or a paper. You tell me, but something that Lance might look at and go, that's interesting. Alma Mater's doing something cool and hadn't thought about that before. So, and he may never get back to you, but the steady drumbeat of activity for someone like Lance might be worth it. And you might never find out that your work was helpful with him. And yet, 20 years later, someone else for the same institution working there talks to Lance, and Lance says that, I was getting reached out to by this young person in annual giving, and they kept sending me stuff and I loved it and it got me going. So you just never know. I mean, I don't know about you, I get back old BREs from decades ago. I get back, things we sent to people a long time ago come back. People hold things. They think about things. It's on their time, not on our time. So our Lance is definitely an archetype. A resource to think about in all three of these is, any book or works in moves management. So if you go back to 50s, 60s, 70s, people like Dave Dunlap and Jerry Panis, Bill Sturdivant, focused on moves management. So it's a major gift theory that, you proactively think about all your major gift prospects and think about, are they someone that you want to have a move with once a month, once every 2 months, once every 3 months, 4, 5, 6, down to maybe once a year. And you plan those moves out in a sequence, and then you implement them along the course of your year. Again, annual giving isn't really like that. It's much more that idea writ large across groups and segments. But if you're going to do this work, maybe think about, are there a few people to practice some moves management on? If you want some resources on that, give me a call or an email. I can help you with some great books and resources on moves management as you go forward. Well, let's see. I went through this pretty fast. It's only 9:35, but I am going to look now for my friend Brian and our friends on the chat to help engage a little bit here. I'll actually try to go to the chat here and do this. So, the goal here was on how to help you think about this differently a little bit and ponder. Normally this would be a group discussion. I have you do this in small groups in our room at Cal Poly. So this is a missing piece of it. You meet some new people that way, which is fun. So I'm sorry to miss that piece of it. But let's just, maybe from as we sit right now, what's a takeaway or two from this? Pop on the chat, and then let's actually then spend a little time now maybe talking about this in terms of where we sit now in a very strange space, and how this could be applied theoretically to different world in which we live. So here we go. Thanks, Brian, for this. So Rachel, thank you for the question. Can you talk more about what a value-added category means? Rachel, will you please give me one more chat note on what that question means? I'm not exactly, I'm going to pause on that one and come back to it. I'm not sure what you're asking, Rachel. Would you give me one more note there? Brian's asked, do we think moves management is still a valid framework for major gift work? The answer, I think, is absolutely yes. And in fact, I've kind of gone back to moves management myself with my own. I made a change 4 months ago to a new college from a place I was at for a long time, and it really helped me think about the importance of moves management. So I've gone back to it. There's the classic book, moves management. There's a book Asking. I do think it's even more important. I think if we don't, without being moves management focused, we end up being sort of accidental in our approach. I think that's important to be intentional. So yeah, I double down on moves management, and I work with my team accordingly. Thank you, Rachel. Value added category on my last bullet before the archetypes. 3 archetypes, just the value added categories. Yeah, I think what I was maybe getting at in the sorry for confusing on value added was just that, what I didn't state well, the value of a loyal donor. So, someone that gives to your organization once, I consider them a fledgling baby bird donor, right? So the first time they give, I picture a little baby bird with wet feathers, and I want to help them, fly and grow and strengthen. So I want them to give again. And so I do what I can to consider, was once a one-time donor, get them again, they're 2 times. Studies show by the time someone's given 5-6 years in a row, they'll retain now at a 90% plus clip. So the value I think I was referring to there, Rachel and team, was that key value. So as you look at your list of possible people to visit with and talk to, the more frequency, the better, I would argue. Or if someone made their first gift only last year, and you can go see them, you're really trying to, I call out on that, like, thank you for that. Bob Berdinsky always says, I know that you know that I know that you know. So, they should know that it was their first gift last year. And though you should be thanking them for that specific action they took last year, and how badly you want them back in again as a retained donor. Really specific, really, really intentional, really careful with this. I mean, this is our job, to take people and help them retain their support of the place. So that's what I meant by value add. Michael Johnston, thank you for this question. The best way to initially connect with annual donor. Great question. So all kinds of ways. And I think I would look for people to add to the chat on this as we go forward. I think it depends. There was a world 20 years ago, we were sending personal letters before we saw people, introducing myself. I did this in the 90s, my name is Ray Watts. I'd like to come visit with you. It feels so like stale and formal now. But, there's still a world where that might make some sense. I'm a big handwritten note person, so maybe that's a way of coming at it. Clearly now an email before you reach out to somebody makes some sense, I would think. Maybe a LinkedIn connection before you reach out. Again, if you're at a school or a college and they're an alum or a parent, that all makes perfect sense. If you're a not-for-profit, maybe it's a little different. But again, if they're a donor to you, then they know why you're reaching out. I think that's the piece I would say too, is that there's just no surprise here. People are savvy. They know what you're up to. So be proud of what you're doing. It's an honorable profession, what we're doing. It matters to students and now in the future. So don't shy away from it. What I would say, Michael, to your question too, is what I would say not to do, this is my advice, is don't couch it in ways that say, well, I just want to come talk to you about Claremont McKenna. I'm not going to ask you for any money today. I don't like that approach. I think that's disingenuous and the wrong way to combat it. So if it means you get fewer visits because you're being just more upfront and honest, I could live with that actually from a managerial standpoint. I'd rather that than someone tell people, "Oh, I want to come give you an update on the school," and then you're really not what you're up to. I think that's disingenuous. So I think transparency, clarity. You represent the college, university, school, nonprofit as a part of their. I love the phrase philanthropic sales. Not everybody does. I get that, but I am proud to wear the badge of a philanthropic salesperson. A resource for all of you. A good friend of mine, his company, forimpact.org, is all about, you're in sales, get over it, kind of thing in terms of philanthropy. So I love all that. Not everybody does. It's fine. But I'd wear that badge proudly of being a salesperson. But again, if you want to talk Michael Johnston offline, I can give you some thoughts more specifically also too. Yeah, let's pivot now to where we are in COVID-19. I'm going to take the chat off for a second. Come back. There we go. Yeah, let's pivot a second to where we stand. Strange times. Never seen anything like it. Hopefully, we won't ever see anything like this again. It's sort of thrown us all for a loop. So, what does it mean? So, does it mean that face-to-face fundraising is gone forever? I hope the answer is no. I think the answer is no, of course. This will eventually pass through us, but maybe until, and so the questions are twofold. One, when we can be with folks again face-to-face, how will that go and feel? And then two, in the time between now and then, what do we do? So I've been encouraging, let me tell you what we're doing at Claremont McKenna, and you can react and let me know what you're doing on the chat too. I've been encouraging a really assertive effort on outreach to people, but not to ask for anything. So again, it's March 26th. We left our campus last Tuesday to work from home. So we're just talking about, 9 days, all very new. But really, we've done some soft asking for our student emergency fund. But really, I've told my whole group, let's hard stop for a bit until we see what's going on. Clearly, it's a straining time for the country and the world. So the last thing you want to do, I would argue right now, is come off atonal and come off. In fact, I don't know about you, but I'm even the last week or so, when I'm getting emails or things that are not contextualizing what's going on, I think to myself, why'd you send that? Like what? I mean, it's not business as usual. Even though business must continue, it's just not. So I'm challenged by that as a customer myself, consumer myself. So I think everything has to be contextualized with the COVID-19 and where we are and being socially distant and everything else. That being said, there's no time like now to dig deep and talk to people. We've really focused on our Claremont McKenna parents and have been reaching out to all of them on our prospect list appropriately to check on them, check on their students. Our college starts their online efforts on Monday, so we're doing a lot of work with the parents. Same advice I gave all of you. I told my team to take their prospect list, sort them life-giving descending, and start working through those lists of emails, calls, check-ins. We're just going to keep doing that. If major gifts or planned gifts were in conversation, we'll keep those going as the donor tells us. Otherwise, we're pausing for a bit. So that's kind of how we're framing it. I think, if any of you, if you're thinking about doing more of this, I think I would say everything except the meeting face-to-face part is still valid. So who might you reach out to? Same logic, not under assignment, life-giving, Libent support. Even if you don't ask for that annual gift now, and maybe you shouldn't, it's up to you, but a reach out. Thank you for being so loyal. How are you in all of this? Can we schedule a Zoom call for 10 minutes? I don't know. We actually might get more contacts the next month or two than we would have normally. People are stressed. It's different. It's scary. But I think they may have a little more time than they've had before. I don't know. So you'll have to use your own judgment, your own tone on that. I can't tell you, each of you, but I will tell you from myself and my team, where I'm encouraging us really assertive outreach, but really no asking for anything, at least right now. That might change. We talked about using April 6th as kind of the internal trigger for us to think about where things sit and reevaluate then. So I mentioned next week we're getting our classes here online and faculty working with students again. So we probably use next week to keep checking in accordingly. But so again, the current space we're in, I would still encourage all of us to think externally, think entrepreneurially, think about people who might, and actually might be lonely. I mean, back to the older population, the loyal donors, I think it's a great chance to just reach out to people and just check on them, literally and figuratively check on them. How you doing? How's it going? I think it's an important thing to do now as people, not just as professionals. So I think to answer the question, most everything except the go out and visit them at a restaurant or a coffee shop or their office is still in play. So that means you actually should be able to get more, again, thinking about it horizontally and vertically, a more horizontal approach here. So I think that you should be able to, depending on how your job has shifted the last 2 weeks, maybe do 10 to 15 individualized emails or outreaches a day. I would again argue in this, I know in annual giving we think a lot about mail merges, efficiencies, economies of scale and scope. I get it. I've done that, and there's still space for that. I'm going to challenge all of us, though, to remember this part of the work, this face-to-face or interpersonal or whatever we're going to call it now, is not mail merge friendly. So don't send 50 emails merged, dear first name. It's just not worth the risk of a mistake there. And don't do that. Send them one by one. Take a moment, look at a person, look at their record, see if you can make it personal as possible. And I really argue against batch merge work in this effort. Do it individually. It's worth your time. It's worth the effort. You can send one, copy a lot of the content, use it as a template, reset it. I'm not saying don't do that, but I do think there's a argument here for real curated, intentional approach, not mass approach. Let's see, back to the chat. Brian, anything else from the group? I don't see any other questions. Let's see. Who do we have on there? Let's do that for a second. Any other thoughts or comments from, we have 11 folks. Thank you for joining in today. Thank you. There's a new chat question. Yeah, no, thanks, Brian, for monitoring this. Yeah, it's, again, I'm not telling you, any of you, anything you don't probably already know. Actually, yeah. I'd love, if you don't mind, just to take a second. Again, we have about 10 minutes left. Any chat reactions to this? Brian put a note up there. Thank you for my comment about, hey, I'm not going to ask you for money. Yeah, again, I've just seen that a couple times, and I've heard that, and I actually stopped it when I hear it on Teams. I get that it's a natural sense of like, I want the visit, so I'm not going to tip my hand and tell them what I'm really up to, but I just don't like that approach. Even when someone, every once in a while, you'll make a phone call for a visit to see somebody, and they'll say, are you going to ask me for money? Even then, I'd say something like, well, maybe not next week, but I will eventually. That's what I do for a living. Or I don't know, let's see how it goes. Or, I think this has to also stay, it's respectful, but also a little bit light. Like if someone's sort of giving you a hard time about that, and if they want to give you, well, I don't want you to ask for me for money. Well, then maybe that's also fine too. And you have a dialogue on the phone that solves that problem too. It's funny, you get a whole range of people, even though they're all alums from your institution or all parents or else, people in all kinds of places, especially now. Again, I just can't guarantee you what you're going to find out there. There's fear. So definitely respect people where they're at, but be honest. Yeah, exactly. Brian's comment there. I mean, they know exactly what we're up to. It's a noble cause. There's just no reason to hide, what we're trying to accomplish, unless you're different than me. There's no commission in the sales work. So you could even argue, I've done this every once in a while, it's sort of maybe treacherous, but the person who's the investment manager or even the estate planner or other allied professionals in our space, they all are helping their clients, but their clients are also helping them directly with what they're up to. I mean, our world is non-commission based, and honestly, if Lance Lowkey makes a gift with my help to Claremont McKenna, that's great, and I'm really happy it happened. And if he doesn't, I'm not losing out on my paycheck, and it doesn't affect my family's success. I want success, but I'm also not personally driven from a salary or commission standpoint that gift happens. So, honest, transparent, they know exactly what we're doing. Depending on where you are, the parents, the alums, they've got multiple causes, we know they do, that they give to. And in fact, that's a fact we want to learn about, is what else do they care about? What else do they give to? What else matters to them? These are really important questions. So you might know that from research and from other things we can find. You know it better when you ask them directly what else they care about. Other chat comments, looking for any reactions from any of you, with about 6-7 minutes left. Make sense? Any ideas from any of you to share with the group? Again, we're a small group, but mighty we are. Would love any comments on the chat as you see fit to give a little bit of feedback on what's been talked about this morning. I'm going to pour a cup of this cold brew coffee, not cold brew, pour over coffee for a moment while I wait for a chat comment or two. All right. Well, seeing no comments, and maybe we've talked ourselves out. So, oh, here we go. Thank you. Oh, this is interesting. Andrew Schlorf, thank you so much. Book recommendations, not necessarily fundraising, that have helped in my career. That's a great question. Thank you, Andrew. We'll do a couple fundraising books first, just because we're on that topic. So the one I've actually purchased for all of my team at both Redlands and now CMC, and we've read through some and we'll keep doing, and almost like a book club, is The Artful Journey. A man named Bill Sturdivant. I read it when I worked at Loyola Marymount 20 plus years ago, and I got to go to a seminar and hear Bill directly. I'm not paid for this lead, so this is not a commission-based thing either, but I've used that book for a long time. And it taught me a lot about the blend of annual support, major gift support, and ultimate giving. And so the work that Tom Suddas, may he rest in peace, and the group at Suddas Group and forimpact.org have done builds in the same theory, sort of annual, special, ultimate, today, tomorrow, forever. So that's a great one. I've read it many times and now bought it for all of my team. I do think the classics like Moves Management and Asking by Panis, anything by Jerry Panis, David Dunlap, and now Bill Sturdivant, I would argue are great resources for all of us. So that's a good one. Non-fundraising books, that's a great question. Someone brought up, yesterday it was Dan from Cal Poly, Who Moved My Cheese. That's an old one that I hadn't read again for a long time. I got thinking about that yesterday, hearing that one for sure. I'm definitely an advancement in fundraising geek. Oh, thank you, Brian, for that link. That's nice. Thank you for putting that up there. I'm a geek. I'm definitely a geek on this work, so I try to stay up to date on different sites and different thinking in this. I have a natural interest also in plan giving, so I'm on honored to be part of the national CGP Plan Giving National Board of Directors. I think there's a real synergy, maybe next year I can do this too. A colleague of mine, Patience Boudreau, a former colleague from Redlands and now at Loma Linda University Medical Center, and I did a program years ago called Planual Giving, where we made a comment. We felt like the annual giving expertise in marketing and plan giving marketing actually could be put together. And so that's maybe a topic for next year if of interest. But so I keep up on the plan giving space too. I think the same, I would argue that Leslie loyalty archetype, the woman or man in their 70s or 80s, loyal donor. Again, studies have shown now countless times the most likely plan giving donor is someone that's given multiple gifts over many years at a small level. Three-figure gifts done over 25 years is the most connected stat to a large plan gift in someone's future. So look for that. So thanks for the question, Andrew. Thank you so much. Well, all right, I think we're about time. Brian, thank you for helping moderate the chat. Much appreciated. All of you on the call, thank you for doing this. It's been a fun adventure. My info is on the slides. Please reach out, and I'll put in the chat my phone and email, easy access. But happy to keep this going online once this call is complete. So again, thank you so much. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. I wish you all the very best, and thank you for joining today. Have a great morning. Thanks.